There's a strange kind of silence that follows someone who likes you but refuses to admit it. And if you've ever felt it, you already know. It doesn't feel like distance. It feels like being emotionally pulled closer and pushed away at the same time, until you start questioning your own reality. Like you're standing in front of a closed door, and every few seconds you hear movement from the other side. But when you knock, everything goes still. That's where it begins. Not with love, not with confession, but with denial that feels almost too intentional to be accidental. Welcome to Female Code Unlocked. If you're new here, subscribe. Because here we don't just talk about attraction. We decode the psychology behind silence, tension, and the things people feel but never say out loud. Now listen carefully, because what you're about to understand will change how you interpret mixed signals forever. There are women who don't reject you directly. They don't block you out. They don't walk away cleanly. Instead, they do something far more psychologically complex. They stay present, but emotionally unreadable. And when a woman is pretending not to like you, her behavior doesn't become colder. It becomes inconsistent. One moment she's warm. She laughs at your words a little longer than necessary, her eyes lingering just a second too long, as if her attention slipped before she could control it. And then, just as quickly, she resets. She becomes composed again, neutral, controlled, like nothing ever happened. But attraction rarely disappears that fast. What you're seeing is suppression, not absence. And the human mind, especially when it's trying to hide emotion, creates patterns. Small leaks in behavior. Because emotions don't vanish just because someone decides they shouldn't exist. You'll notice she remembers things you never thought mattered. A passing comment you made days ago suddenly resurfaces in conversation, as if it was stored somewhere deeper than casual memory. Yet she'll act like it's nothing, like she's simply good at remembering details. But here's the darker layer. When someone is actively pretending not to like you, they become hyper-aware of their own behavior around you. That awareness creates friction, and friction creates contradiction. She might avoid direct eye contact, but then look at you when she thinks you're not noticing. She might downplay your presence in a group setting, but subtly position herself within your orbit anyway, like gravity she refuses to acknowledge. And you feel it, that invisible push and pull. Because your mind is built to detect inconsistency. It's how humans survived long before words ever mattered. But here's where it becomes psychologically deeper. The more she denies the feeling, the more energy it takes to maintain the denial. And that energy has to go somewhere. So it leaks out in pauses that last too long, replies that feel slightly delayed but overly thoughtful, and reactions that are just a bit too controlled, like she's writing her behavior instead of living it. And you, without realizing it, start reading between those cracks. You begin to wonder if you imagined it, if you misread her, if you're projecting meaning onto nothing. But deep down, something in you doesn't fully agree with that explanation. Because attention that is truly neutral never feels this charged, never feels like it has weight behind it. The truth is, when someone is pretending not to like you, you don't experience rejection. You experience tension without resolution. A psychological loop that keeps your attention stuck, because your brain is trying to solve something that was never meant to be openly explained. And that's what makes it so emotionally consuming. Not clarity, but controlled ambiguity. Not absence, but carefully managed presence. And the most unsettling part? You can feel when someone is fighting their own reaction to you, even when they never say a word about it. And when that internal conflict builds long enough, it starts shaping behavior that feels almost contradictory on the surface, but deeply logical underneath. Because pretending not to like someone isn't a neutral state, it's active resistance, and resistance always creates pressure. So you start noticing a second pattern. She begins to regulate how visible her interest is around other people. In a group, she might be expressive with everyone else, open laughter, easy conversation, relaxed body language. But when the interaction shifts toward you, something subtle tightens. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for you to feel the temperature drop and rise in the same breath. It's not rejection, it's control. As if she's managing how much of herself is allowed to exist in your direction. And here's where psychology becomes uncomfortable. Because controlled attraction often looks identical to indifference from the outside. That's why it confuses you. That's why you replay moments in your head trying to decode what was real and what was performance. But the body rarely lies as efficiently as the mind tries to. You might catch it in the smallest reflexes. The way her posture subtly aligns when you enter a space. The micro pause before she responds to you specifically, as if her emotional system has to quickly decide what version of herself is allowed to respond. And then the overcorrection happens. She becomes slightly more composed than necessary, slightly more neutral than the situation requires, like she's balancing something internally that no one else can see. That's a classic psychological signature of suppression. When someone is aware of a feeling they don't want to reveal, they don't eliminate it. They overmanage it. And overmanagement always creates cracks. For example, she may avoid initiating conversation, but responds faster than expected when you speak first. She may act disinterested in direct interaction, but becomes unusually attentive to indirect signals, your tone, your mood, even your silence. Because when attraction is denied, it doesn't disappear into nothingness. It redirects into observation, into awareness, into noticing things that normally wouldn't matter. And slowly, without realizing it, you become a kind of psychological focal point in her environment, even if she refuses to acknowledge it consciously. But there's another layer even darker than this. Sometimes pretending not to like someone isn't just about hiding feelings. It's about maintaining emotional control over vulnerability itself. Because once you admit attraction, you lose distance. And once you lose distance, you become emotionally exposed. So instead, she stays in the safer position, close enough to feel, far enough to deny. And that creates the most confusing dynamic of all: presence without permission. She is there, but not fully available. Engaged, but not openly invested. And you're left interpreting contradictions as if they are puzzles meant to be solved, when in reality, they are emotional defenses designed to stay unsolved. That's why you feel stuck in loops of overthinking. Because your mind is trying to assign certainty to something that is intentionally being kept uncertain. And the more you try to define it, the more elusive it becomes. Because ambiguity is not a mistake in this scenario. It's the mechanism, a way of feeling without admitting feeling, a way of being close without crossing the line that would make everything real. And deep down, what unsettles you the most is not whether she likes you or not. It's that part of her might already know exactly what she feels, and is choosing not to let it exist out loud.